These little pieces right here, the plastic and the brass ones, they just seem to leak sometimes, and you have to position them just right to get them not to leak. They're kind of aggravating. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? I hope everybody out there is having a spectacular day. I got kind of more of a laid back video today. I want to give you a couple updates on some things. We got our giant marigolds back there. We need to get those pruned up a little bit. Then we're going to talk a little bit about drip irrigation. Got some upcoming changes to the way I do my drip system setups. We'll be installing several new drip systems as cool season planting approaches. So I want to show you some of those changes that I think is going to make things a lot easier for us and maybe for you if you're new to installing drip irrigation. And then lastly, I want to show you some of the things we've been doing in the kitchen as far as canning goes. So first, I just want to give a big thank you out there to everybody who donated for our new raised garden bed plan right here in this plot behind me where the chickens are. So far, we raised about half of what it's going to cost to actually make this happen. I've got it all drawn out on a big piece of poster board. I think we're getting 13 beds that are going to go in there. I haven't ordered them quite yet, but just making sure that's exactly what I want. And if you haven't had a chance to donate yet and you're still wanting to do that, you can do that on YouTube with a little super thanks button below the video or via PayPal at support@lazydogfarm.com. But as soon as I order those, I'll show you the actual layout, and then we'll have lots of fun videos as far as, you know, putting those together, getting them lined up out here, filling them up. Should be a lot of fun, and I think we can get it all going right in time for some cool season planting. I know the actual color beds I want, which is kind of a sage green color, I think they may be on back order to mid-September, but the girl with the company that I've been working with said she may be able to expedite our order so we can get them a little quicker, get them installed, and that way we have them ready to go when we're ready to plant. So stay tuned for lots of good updates coming on this plot. Now let's walk down here and take care of these giant marigolds. So as I showed you on that last garden tour video, our giant marigolds are looking beautiful, but if we want to keep them looking beautiful, we need to prune off all these flower heads here. Now if you want to be real delicate with this, you could come in here and just cut off each individual bloom, if that's the way you want to do it. Maybe you just had a few plants, but the way I've been doing this is just grabbing a handful at a time and pruning them back pretty hard, and that seems to work pretty good. Now we will give some of these to the chickens here. I'll just throw them on the grass in kind of a pile. We'll rake them up later and give some of them to the chickens. Makes their eggs nice and dark orange. So I'm going to get these cleaned up here, and then we'll show you what it looks like. All right, so as you can see there, we don't get too fancy with it. We just hack them back and they'll grow back. So this is about the 4th time I've done this on this row right here. Hack them back hard like this, and then they'll put on some new leaves, some new branches, and next thing you know, this whole row will be filled with blooms again. And in addition to pruning the tops, I also prune some of these side branches that tend to, you know, walk along the ground there. And now that I got that cleaned up, I can get in here, pull some of those weeds as well, and clean up this entire row. So if you like growing marigolds, but you've never tried giant marigolds, I highly recommend giving them a try. I think once you try the giant ones, you won't go back to the smaller ones. The only caveat is they do require some type of support system. The Florida weave has worked pretty well for us with these this year that have been growing since the spring. The orange giant marigolds seem to have a little more longevity than the yellow giant marigolds. Initially, the yellow ones did pretty well, but the orange ones seem to have a little more staying power and doing better long term. And if you live in the southern states, you can do a round of these for the fall months. Now we're not going to do that this year because these should still be good, but last year we started some in the greenhouse about right now, planting them for fall, and they actually made it through the first couple light frosts we had. Now when we got a real heavy frost, it killed them, but if you want a nice pretty fall flower in the garden and you still got plenty of time before your first frost, you may want to try some of these. Okay, so now let's talk about some of these upcoming changes to the way we kind of set up our drip systems around here. Now, when we start fall planting, I am planning on doing a video showing the complete drip irrigation install for those of you who are interested in using drip irrigation for the first time, or if you just want to see exactly how we do it from start to finish. I'll be sure to include that on the video as we get closer to fall planting. Now, a lot of people have also asked about me showing installing a drip system for our new raised bed setup. I don't think I'm going to do that this fall. So with fall crops, we really don't have to worry about moisture causing diseases on them as much with the cool season vegetables. So I think what I'm going to do for the raised beds this fall is just have a sprinkler in the center with a circular pattern. That way it can water everything in there. And one reason I'm doing that is just to, you know, have something so I can water them. I don't know that I'm going to have time to set up a drip system this fall. I'm not worried about overhead water as much in the fall, like I said. And also sometimes with the cool season crops, I need to save them during a hard frost by running water all night. So probably not going to set up a drip system on the raised beds until maybe next spring, but I will show you the setup on an in-ground plot when that time comes. So let me tell you how I kind of discovered that I want to make these improvements to my in-ground garden drip system. So back in the late spring, my father-in-law was putting in his first ever garden at his place and wanted me to help him come install a drip irrigation system for his corn. So I go online to Drip Depot and I'm trying to order the parts, and I'm trying to basically find all the parts for this, which is kind of the beginning of the drip system setup. This is what we've used for years. As I'm looking for all these pieces to put this particular setup together, I actually end up finding some other parts and pieces that aren't quite as complicated as this that I think will work a lot better. So I purchased those, went and installed it at his garden, and it worked really well. And I said, man, I'm going to switch a lot of my stuff over to this because it's just so much simpler. So on this setup here that we've been using for years, we have a coupling up here where our water hose hooks in. Then we have our filter, then we have our pressure regulator, then we have an adapter here. We cut a little piece of mainline, then we install this T. There's a lot going on here. The other thing with these particular pieces, this particular filter, this particular pressure regulator, it uses pipe threads, not hose threads. And if you know anything about plumbing, you have pipe threads and you have hose threads. If you want to go from pipe threads to hose threads or vice versa, you have to use an adapter. So you can't see them, but there's also some adapters in here as well. This is a pretty complicated setup, like I said. So let me show you this new setup that I'm going to slowly start transitioning to in some of my plots. So got a slightly different filter here than this one we've been using. This filter here actually has a hose thread connection on the end of it. So it's pretty much the same filter as this one, but we don't have to have this little white adapter right here to convert those pipe threads to hose threads. This is a hose thread filter. That means we can hook our water hose up right here, and it makes things a lot easier. These little pieces right here, the plastic and the brass ones, they just seem to leak sometimes, and you have to position them just right to get them not to leak. They're kind of aggravating. This right here won't leak. Water hose hooks right into there, and this works a lot easier. So we'll have this filter, water hose hooks up right there. Then we have to have our pressure regulator. Now, I haven't gotten in the mail yet the right pressure regulator for this particular setup. This is the old pressure regulators I've been using, and these have pipe threads on them. This is hose threads, but Drip Depot makes a pressure regulator with hose threads that'll hook right up to this. And I'll show you that when we do the install and get them in the mail. But I'll slide it on here barely just so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. I don't want to ruin those threads. So our pressure regulator will go on right here. And then on this piece, to get our T attached, we have to cut this little piece of main line here and have these adapters. But I found this piece on Drip Depot's website that basically screws in to the end of the pressure regulator. Already has a T on it to hook up your main line there. Now, this pressure regulator doesn't have threads on this end, doesn't have male threads on this end, but the one I'll show you when we do the install does. So this piece basically hooks up right here, and we've got a pretty seamless setup here. A lot less complicated than that other one. This only takes 3 pieces, where the other one has about 5 or 6 different pieces going together. This is all hose threads. It all screws together really easily. Water hose here, and then your main line hook up here. So we're basically going to be going from this kind of complicated setup to this pretty simple and easy setup right here. And I'll try to have a blog on our website before this video airs with links to all these different pieces here. I think this is going to work much better for those of you who are doing drip irrigation for the first time. This is a lot easier to put together, assemble, and install than something like this right here. So another slight improvement we're going to be doing has to do with crimping or terminating the ends of the mainline tubing. I got a piece right here. Go dogs. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So in the past we have used these little pieces here called a figure 8 clamp, and they do the job. So you basically slide it on like that, fold the tubing over, and then boom, you've got the main line crimped, so no water is going to run out the end of the main line on the end of your plots. The only issue I have with these is if I'm not careful, every now and then I'll step on one of these, or I may accidentally run over it with the lawnmower or my buggy, and these little pieces do break pretty easily. Also, they don't lay down real well at the end of the plot. I have to put a brick on the end to get them to lay down. Sometimes they'll make the drip line or the main line twist a little funky, and obviously you got to use a little more main line than you need just to be able to get it fold over and crimp. So I found this fitting right here on Drip Depot's website, and this does the same thing as a figure 8 clamp, just a little easier and a little cleaner. So the way this works, slides on the end of the main line like that. It's got a nut where it tightens down, and then that terminates the end of your main line tubing. The other neat thing about this fitting, it's got this little cap on here. So if you ever need to flush your drip system, just pull off that cap there. You can flush out your main line, maybe for the winter if you don't want water freezing in there or whatever. And then when you're done flushing, just screw that cap back on there and you're good to go again. So this is a lot cleaner setup, a lot easier setup, and I don't have to worry about stepping or crushing these as much as I do those figure 8 clamps. So like I said, I'll put a blog on our website with names and links to all these specific pieces that you need for an in-ground drip irrigation setup. Hopefully that will help you guys out that are wanting to get into drip irrigation, and then when the time comes in another month or so, we'll show the complete installation in one of our in-ground garden plots. Alright, and so lastly I want to show you guys and tell you about some preservation we've been doing lately with some of the things from the garden. Now these pickles here we made a while back, but I meant to tell you something about them, something I discovered this year as far as making pickles, and just never got around to it. So we put up, I think, around 15 or so, maybe a little bit more jar pickles. Did some slice like this. We did a few spears. We did them all deal. We didn't do any sweet pickles. But I figured something out this year as far as how to keep the pickles crispy. I always struggled with the pickles not being nice and crunchy and being kind of soggy, but I figured it out this year. So I saw this on another YouTube channel or Facebook video. I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw it and I said, I'm going to give that a try. So what we did this year is we sliced up our pickles for the slices, or cut the ones into spears that we're going to do into spears, the day before we were going to actually do the pickling. And then we put those in a big bowl and we coated them well with canning salt or pickling salt. Put them in the fridge overnight. The next day, pulled them out of the fridge, washed all that salt off of them, and then did the normal, dill pickle canning process. And what that did was made these things be nice. I don't know if you can hear that, but really nice and crunchy. So we didn't use any pickle crisp granules or anything like that in here. All we did was do the salt overnight, then wash the salt off, and that worked like a charm. The spears are really, really crunchy, and so I'm definitely going with that method in the future. As far as what we put in the jars here, I just put some fresh dill and a couple cloves of garlic in there and some black peppercorns. Didn't get too crazy with the spices, but these are really, really good. Now, one thing where we kind of messed up a little bit, I had one recipe I had written down, Brooklyn had another. We ended up going with Brooklyn. She was mixing the salt and stuff as far as the brine that goes in here, and some of them are a little salty, like when you first open a jar. It depends on what you're eating them with, but they're a little salty. I think we got a little too much salt in the brine. But what I've been doing is when I open up a can out of the pantry, I'll pour about half the liquid out and then fill it back up with water, put it in the fridge, and then they're usually good to go after that. But these are really good, best pickles we've ever made. Now, something I did earlier this week was process our fermented Santa Fe Grand peppers into hot sauce pretty much here. So we put the peppers in the jars, use the Mason Tops fermentation kit, let them ferment for 7 to 10 days, and then we take all that out once they're fermented, blend it all up, and here we have basically our basic hot sauce. And those Santa Fe Grand peppers just make a really, really tasty sauce. Got a little bit of heat to it, but got a lot of good like citrusy flavors in it. So this is a little warm right here. I haven't put it in actual hot sauce bottles yet. I may take some of this. I may bottle some of it just like it is. I might take some of it and kind of cut down the heat a little bit. I haven't decided yet. I added a lot more garlic this year than I usually do. Also, when I'm blending it up, you got to add some kind of liquid to get it to blend up nicely. I added more apple cider vinegar and not much of the fermentation brine. So this tastes a little more like traditional hot sauce, not quite as funky as if you add a lot of the fermentation brine. But we don't throw away that fermentation brine. I have it saved right here, and this stuff makes some amazing meat marinade. So what I'll do later, probably go to the store, get me a big family pack of chicken thighs or leg quarters, and then I'll let them soak in this very active fermentation brine here for about 2 or 3 days, and throw them puppies on the Weber, and man, you talk about some fine eating. And then lastly here, we got some jelly that we've been making the last couple nights, and so you can see we've been working on that jar there pretty hard. This is a full jar here. I think I'm up to about 14 jars of this. Probably gonna end up making about 20 to 25 jars before it's all over with. Now, one of my good friends back in the day, Zach, he said, need to call this ShoeBuddy Jelly. And some of y'all out there may know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all may be thinking, ShoeBuddy? So, let me explain it for you. When you eat some of this right here, I'm gonna try it. It'll make you go, ShoeBuddy. That's about the best jelly I've ever eaten. So we're calling this our ShoeBuddy Muscadine Jelly, and we've got a blog on the recipe section of our website. This stuff is really, really easy to make. Doesn't require any fancy equipment, just basically the juice from the muscadines, pectin, and sugar. Now, we made jelly only with the red or the purple muscadines from our vine, even though we've got bronze ones out there as well. Went with the purple ones just because you can see there, just makes a beautiful, beautiful color there. Didn't make any jelly with the bronze ones, but it don't get no better than this. This is just hands down the best jelly I've ever had. The kids really like it. I really like it. This stuff is just amazing. So even though our mulberries didn't really do anything this year and we didn't get a chance to make a bunch of mulberry jelly like we wanted, we're making up for it with the muscadine jelly here. And we go through a lot of jelly around here between peanut butter jelly sandwiches, boys eating toast almost every morning, and it is nothing for us to go through a jar like this, you know, every 2 weeks or so. So if we put up 25 jars, there's a good chance we burn through that, you know, in a year or a little over a year. So we're getting prepared, and we'll save a lot of money. We won't have to buy that nasty Welch's jelly from the store anymore. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever tried the overnight salt trick on the pickles to get them nice and crisp. If you haven't tried it, I'd highly recommend that trick. And if you're a hot sauce connoisseur like myself, give me some ideas what I should cut this with. So we just got basic hot sauce here, just garlic, peppers, and apple cider vinegar. I want to do a few different recipes as I'm bottling this. Give me some ideas of what I can add to this to maybe, accent the flavors or maybe cut the heat down just a hair. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to check out our affiliate links below. A lot of great companies that we use in our gardens here at Lazy Dog Farm. Even got some coupon codes for some of those companies so you can take advantage of those discounts. Also, be sure to go check out our website, lazydogfarm.com, where you'll find this hot sauce recipe and this great jelly recipe, amongst a lot of other good stuff. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification button, like and share, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.
Oh, farewell. By the beauty of your life,